I've seen it on the Discord. I do try to ignore you sometimes, but I have seen it.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you're all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 95 of Getting Tabled with your host, Jason. He finally got a decent haircut, the Bruce.
Oh, I knew I shouldn't have pointed that out. And with us, of course, we have the main man. We should change that opening, by the way, because his first name is not Jason. That name was taken away from him and is now mine. His first name is Major. We all know that. It's Major Socks.
I'm good with that for 4 more years until the Air Force decides to promote me again, hopefully. But yes,
Or discharged you because of budget cuts, like we were just talking about.
That's true. With what we were discussing off camera before we started, yeah, budget cuts could send me away from the Air Force altogether. Who knows? Anyways,
Colonel Slippers. That's who you are.
oh, thanks, Bruce.
Colonel Slippers.
White Colonel Slippers.
And we have George back from missing us from Thanksgiving time frame. So, welcome back, George.
Yay, I spent time with family. Most of it not mine.
You're welcome. You enjoyed yourself, didn't you, George?
No, I was up at 6 a.m. smoking a turkey, so no.
Turkey is for eating. You're confusing them with cigarettes, which I wouldn't recommend.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. After 20 years, yeah, I wouldn't recommend either. So, but it makes food taste delicious. This is the last episode of the year, guys.
Yes.
With Christmas falling the way it is, and New Year's and then scheduling and stuff like that, this is it, folks. This is the last episode of the season. And are we going to do a year-end roundup? No, we're not. We're just going to do a normal episode, and we're going to do that on January 7th.
Yeah. So, with the way that things are falling, I am traveling most of Christmas. I am spending 2 days flying, 1 day celebrating Christmas, and yay. But the other problem is, like, normally where we would still work around that, it's kind of an impossibility this year because the laptop I've normally used in previous years is now dead. I don't know why. It's just decided to die recently. Seemingly why I wasn't plugged in. I think the fans died in it and then it's overpowered. I think that's what's happened. So it turns on. It doesn't do anything. So yay.
Have you tried a hammer?
As tempting as that might be, no.
Oh,
so
it's called a hard reset.
Hard reset you in a minute. That's not fair. I shouldn't do that to the hammer. It's not fair. So yeah, that's where we are. January 7th, in lieu of Game Talk, we will be talking about our highlights from 2022. I know that one of them is going to be a negative, and everything else should be positive, hopefully, because there might have been 2 negatives, but the other ones have been talked about today. Let's get into the news.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
All right, so...
Oh, look. Games Workshop has done new Corn Berserkers and again left other things that need new models to the wayside.
To be fair, have you seen the most recent Corn Berserkers before this? They're very old. I mean, I am usually the one that's having this conversation about how things don't need to be done yet. I think this one's okay. The old ones are horrible. Yeah, look, we're getting new Corn Berserkers. Look, I'm not a huge Corn person. I never have been. I understand the appeal of them as heavy metal. Yay, that's nice. I still don't like Corn. It's just not my thing. These models, however, are quite gorgeous. This is definitely not part of the World Eaters book that's about to come out, because that's definitely not what's coming. It's definitely not what's coming.
I don't think they need to do new Corn Marines because I thought the Marines looked fine. The helmets, on the other hand, and of course they did the old school helmet style of like huge wings on my head. Look, I'm turning my head and I'm knocking things over because I have gigantic wings. That's unnecessary. It's stupid. It's stupid.
It's supposed to be stupid, though.
No, it's beyond stupid. It's like if I were to do Corn and do Corn Berserkers, I would get regular heads. I would not put a single one of those heads on them.
I can pretty much tell you for a fact that if they got rid of them, the entire community would be up in arms about it.
I know. I'm stating my opinion.
The community is wrong. To be fair, I don't agree with you. I don't disagree with you. I am not a fan of the Corn aesthetic. On record, I've said it numerous times. I do like what they've done here. I do think there's other things that needed to be done first, but not in the Corn world. The problem, I think, with Corn is the fact that we've had that many huge Corn releases over the last 7 or 8 years that it really feels like we've had too much of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten, 32 Bloodthirsters and, everything else has been redesigned.
But you can't tell that to the Corn players because the Corn doesn't get... Sorry, you can't tell that to the Chaos players because Chaos doesn't get enough attention. And they should get more attention, and we're not allowed to say that they get too much attention. We will get abused if we disagree with them on this.
Meh.
I speak from experience. I might be slightly mocking them, but that's beside the point. All right, fine. I'll be nice. Is it the most important thing that needed to happen? No. But I do think it's something that was worthwhile. If it was me, personally, I would be doing them all without the helmets. I actually think they look cooler without the wing helmets. And not actually because of the wings. I just think if you're going to have something that looks savage, why is something that's savage wearing a helmet to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, a dude there with
they shouldn't care.
The teeth, respirator.
Yeah.
That's a good look.
At the end of the day, if I'm fighting for skulls for the Skull Throne, and it doesn't matter if I live or die, why am I trying to protect my head? Because it doesn't matter if I'm dead. As a Corn aesthetic doesn't make any sense in that way.
To be fair, if you become a Corn Berserker, you don't need to protect your head because you've already proven you don't have any brains in there to protect. So
that is true. They are the Marines of the military world.
No. They're worse than that.
You made that too easy. All right.
I did.
Moving on. Blood Bowl. We haven't actually seen anything from Blood Bowl for a few weeks. We've got a new hero coming out, and I think he looks horrible. I mean, he looks fine. He's kind of boring. His chainsaw looks ridiculous. So this is... wait, hang on. It's Nobler Blackwood. He's got a cool name.
But he's green.
Yeah, because he's a goblin.
So he should be Greenwort.
Yes.
I don't know. You're overthinking the goblin aesthetic, I think. Because the whole point of goblins is they don't make sense. Look, I mean, it's fine. It's probably not my favourite of them. He does have Blodge, which is good. Because Blodge is the best thing in the game. By a long way. I don't know. I think they kind of fell asleep sculpting this. I don't know. Am I wrong? Do you disagree with me?
I mostly agree with you. Like his little hat deal there, and his head with the.
It looks like a mixing bowl.
I like that.
Okay.
About it. That chainsaw.
Not so much.
Goblins have better chainsaws than that.
Of all of the Games Workshop properties, if there was one that I think the Sox would actually give into, I suspect it would be Blood Bowl as a game. Maybe not necessarily the aesthetic, but as a game, I think it's the first one you would get over the line for. Because you only need to paint up like 8 to 10 models, and all you have to do is pick one that looks vaguely all right. So you can do your elf team and you'd be happy.
No, if he were to do it, he would do Imperial Aeronautics or whatever, because flying things. And in reality, if he were to cross the line, but it will never come back because of another game that exists, Battlefleet Gothic is what he would cross the line for.
I think George might be right. I think I would possibly do Battlefleet before I do anything.
There'd be no point doing Battlefleet because all it is drop Fleet Commander Light.
Exactly.
What I
That's
just
George
said,
mentioned.
it's not going to come back because another game exists.
I suspect it will at some point. I just don't think it's as close as people want it to be. Because
True.
I don't think there's room in the community for another space game right now. And there's at least there's 3 others that are too big, and none of those 3 are the one that I wish it was.
Yeah, if Battlefleet Gothic did come back, I would probably, without thinking about drop and get at least 6 fleets going in that. Just because back I played it when like the what were they called, the rogue traders, like the the TT agents or whatever. Like there was a rogue trader that came by and he had Battlefleet Gothic, and like I played it before it went on sale. Even I'm like, this is cool. So
yeah,
if we're to come back out, my main thing was metal. So if they do it all plastic in a heartbeat, I would probably pick it up just because.
If they were to bring it out, I think they would need to bring it out so that you're starting with at least 4 fleets. You can't just start with the 2 because it just won't make any ground clearance otherwise. I don't know. It's kind of hard. It'll be 2, and then 6 months later you'll get a 3rd one.
Yep.
But the problem, I mean, we've already lost 1 Star Wars game. I'm sorry, but Armada is dead. We all know this. It's time to accept it. I genuinely don't think there's room for another spaceship game. I just don't.
We're probably only on the 7th level of like admitting it, so I think there's still some time before we fully admit it. Because it's usually a step.
All right.
Actually, I was talking about that today at the game store. That Star Wars Armada was dead.
Yeah, it very much is. But between that, A Billion Suns, and then Drop Fleet Commander, as much as I wish that was on the top of the list, it's not. Not as far as market is concerned, anyway. I would argue it's the best game on the market, but it's not the most popular. But moving on, we have gameplay footage from the new Space Marine 2 game, and honestly, it looks good. So, I mean, it's kind of very, like, short snippets, and it's kind of cut into the original trailer that we've already seen. I'm playing it in the background at the moment. For those of you that haven't seen it already, it's very, very pretty. As far as I can tell, we're getting this for PC, we're getting it for Xbox, and we're getting it for PlayStation. So there is not going to be a Switch version that I am aware of, unless they're secretly not talking about it for some reason. Or
Mac OS, so...
Nothing releases for Mac OS.
Yeah. What is it? I've got it.
Fortnite.
Total War. Total War Warhammer. It releases on Mac OS.
Yeah. So PC, Xbox, PS5. Mac OS is not on the list. The Nintendo Switch is not on the list. Neither of those should be really too surprising at this point. I suspect that if it's going to happen, it'll be after the fact. But I don't see us coming on the Nintendo Switch. It's too big of a game to be able to play on it. It'd have to be too compromised.
Which is sad because I don't have any of the current modern consoles at all. And if I were to get a modern console, it would be the Switch because it is a portable that goes on the big TV, whatever. I would do that, but I'm not dropping. What's a PS5 these days? $750?
Something like that.
Yeah, so I'm not getting that. I got other stuff to buy.
I will probably buy this for the Xbox, personally, but we'll see. I want to see more of it before I make the pre-orders. I'm generally not someone that recommends pre-ordering games at this stage anymore. This does look really good. Don't get me wrong; it looks really good. But we also haven't seen a lot of it. Yeah. I guess the only other thing worth mentioning is that it's still only Ultramarines. But that shouldn't really surprise anybody.
Ooh.
Well, the Smurfs are the generic hero, so.
There's no good guys, though.
Well, the problem is that Blood Angels had already been done, or the Blood
There's
What were they?
wolves, there's salamanders, there's the dark
Oh,
angels.
yeah, I know that. But the original game was an ultramarine, so it makes sense.
I know, but I mean, it's like, come on, there's a lot of other chapters.
Oh, I know.
Give some of the other chapters love.
I have an idea. Let's show a different army some love, because Lord knows we don't have enough Space Marine things. Anyway, I'm not getting on that bandwagon again. Let's move on. Atomic Mass Games release things occasionally.
Do we want to cover the two Marvel MCP stuff before we move on to the three that are kind of similar?
Sorry, do we want to cover the what?
MCP.
Yeah, the Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Oh,
Yeah. You kinda got
yeah.
one Star Wars one in the middle of those three.
Yep, I can do that. So we're going to start. So all of this stuff was actually revealed this week. We're going to start by talking about Agent Venom and Spider-Woman. So Jessica Drew, also known as Spider-Woman, and Agent Venom, which is the Venom that was controlled by Flash Thompson. Different universe there, Bruce.
I was going to like Flash. That's not Bruce.
Yeah. So when the initial teaser for this was all black and silhouette, and I think it was about 3 seconds before people all said exactly who it was, because it was really obvious, because there's really only 2 people that it could have been. None of the other Venoms used guns, but Agent Venom always did. Agent Venom was kind of like Flash Thompson actually becoming a hero in of his own right. So I think this is definitely a good call. Spider-Woman kind of needed to be done. I don't like the pose. I think the pose is horrible and boring. It just looks like they've copied and pasted a painting of Spider-Woman over the top of every other female in the game. They all have that gentle landing pose. They all look the same.
I was going to say, if you were to just show me the silhouette of that, I'd been like, well, that's Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel. It's
also Spider-Gwen. It's exactly the same pose. Atomic Mass Games have had a little bit of criticism for some of their sculpting work, but I think it's becoming very, very clear that they really don't. This is going to sound very unfair, but it's starting to feel like they don't care about the female characters, and they only release them because they feel like they have to. That's how it feels, because they're clearly not putting any effort into most of them. It's literally just the same sculpt over, to the point where this looks like hair from Scarlet Witch. It doesn't even look like the hair's been sculpted individually.
So you could maybe almost backtrack as much as they're calling it in like this and phoning it in like this, maybe, so they don't generate too much outrage because it's so generic, and not, because there's going to be that percentage of like, they're making it look too sexist, or they're not making it look right enough, or so they're just doing genericus as possible.
But everybody is standing in the same pose. How does that? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen some of the artwork done for Spider-Woman on an official level. There's a very good reason you don't go in that direction. But that's a very different conversation to the problem.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is maybe that's why for the female characters they're being this generic, they're getting the argument of this is too generic instead of all the other arguments that could be happening.
Even if that was just to move one of the arms in front so it looks like maybe she was about to grab something or punch, or one of them's in a fist or something.
That's fair. That's fair.
If the arm that's behind, if it was like this, it would still look boring, but at least it would be new.
So we can talk about this in a bit, because we'll talk about some of the Shatterpoint terrain, and we can look at one of the photos of Ahsoka and what's her name on the Separatist side, and their poses are totally different. But we'll talk about that here in a minute.
Yeah.
So
moving on.
Rhino.
Yeah, the Rhino is gorgeous. Well, gorgeous is not the right word, but the mini is great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's kind of like that skin, moisturized, dude. No, but his punching into the ground and like that being part of the mini with the exploding up ground, that's a good touch.
Yeah.
Do that with Spider-Woman.
Yeah, I'm not the first to point that. Like I said, that this is like the whole thing about the female characters all looking the same. Is been as an argument that I've been kind of deliberately avoiding for a while, to be honest, because I didn't necessarily agree with the argument, but I can't really ignore it anymore because it's become really, really obvious. This rhino looks amazing. It's probably worth noting, just for George's sake, that that's not his actual skin. It's a suit that he wears and is kind of trapped inside of. But, yeah.
Semantics.
I know. They've done really well. I would argue that Rhino is a character that's kind of hard to get right too, because there's been a lot of different versions of Rhino, even to the point where the cartoon image of him up in the top right-hand corner of the box really looks horrible. Is just an example of just how easily Rhino can be done wrong. This particular mini looks good.
Look at the cartoon image, right? Change the gray to blue, change it from a rhino to 2 antenna, and you have the animated tick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not. That's the thing. That's brilliant. All right. There's this little known franchise that nobody's ever heard of. Yeah, it's tiny. Nobody's ever heard of Star Wars. What are you talking about? It's not like this is something that literally changed the pop media landscape for all time or anything. There's also this really obscure character called Boba Fett. I mean, he never even said anything in the original Nobody ever remembers this guy. It's not like they always talk about him and nobody else. I'll stop. He
said something. He went,
yeah.
He had one line.
But then he survived, and this is who we get. So we get the Daimo Boba Fett. So he is a operative that only the rebels can take, and it's old Boba, in a sense. So this is after Boba had escaped. If you've seen the series, he's escaped the Starlight Pit, and is...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert for something that was like 6 years ago, and was actually... It's actually been very well known for like 3 decades at this point.
Anyways, I really like his pose.
I like the fact that there's more than one head.
Yeah. So
I love the fact that he has a sand person staff.
Yeah. I think it's one of the better ones they've done in recent memory, actually. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like in person, obviously, because, well, the Legion stuff is not the same quality as the Marvel stuff. It is more simple. It's not a bad thing. It was originally being done by a board game designer, so obviously the sculpting was not the number one thing. But this particular box, I mean, this is incredible. It'll be interesting to see what the who does he work with? The Rebels?
The Rebels.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play around him if he changes the way that the army works much.
As a Rebel player, I'm actually looking forward to getting him on the table. So.
Personally, I don't know which head option I prefer. I think I actually want to... I think it would have to be the actual helmet.
That's what I think I'm going to go with, is the helmet.
Yeah.
I'm really torn on this, just simply for the fact that, one, they were brilliant in the fact that they got the guy that played, Jango Fett to be Boba Fett, because that's and like the fact that they went and got him to play this role. I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I would almost have to just do the normal head because it looks like him
for that reason.
Because they went and did that, and like for that that linear story.
Yep.
Yeah.
We also
could you imagine being that guy, like, hey, so we're doing this TV show, and because you did this character like 10 years ago, you need to be this character now. Okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, like he's always been very proud of that work. So I mean, obviously it would have cost them money, but yeah, I doubt that there would have been much problems getting him on board with it. I don't know, but I suspect it would have been quite easy.
Well,
socks.
What's his face for Obi-Wan?
Ewan McGregor.
No, not McGregor. The other one.
So
you're talking the old
Hayden Christensen. He quit acting because of what happened on Star Wars.
Yeah,
to get him back for Obi-Wan.
George, would you like to think about what you said there for a second then? Because Hayden Christensen never played Obi-Wan Kenobi at all.
Yeah, he was Vader.
I know.
In the Obi-Wan
you
series.
said Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Because that's not what you said. You said that played Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Anyways,
I was referencing the show, but so. Moving on, I'm underwhelmed by this.
The Crash X-Wing?
Yeah.
So I've seen other Crash X-Wings that the community has done, and as a scenario, this one actually will come with a scenario as well. So it's not just the terrain piece. They'll come with a scenario, and that's what they do with a lot of their terrain pieces. They'll have a little scenario kit to go along with it. But yeah, they could have done this one a little bit better.
I don't mind. I mean, I like the fact that they've done it. I think that there's already better versions of it out there. Here's what I will say. It's really, really obvious that the broken wing on the side is just a flipped over copy of the other one. It's literally the same.
What? No. You mean they cut a corner on design?
I know, right? But I don't mind it. Is it the greatest piece of terrain ever? No, but it's also just a crashed X-Wing. It can't be. There's only so much you're going to be able to do with that.
Well, so here's my next argument, right? There's that price point with that, as just a crash one.
It's ridiculous. I have to agree.
Actually, I'd never.
$100.
What is the price?
$100.
No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
part of my
ridiculous.
dislike of it is that price point.
Yeah.
If I was a Legion player, we've covered them on Indie. There was that one site that you were just like, ooh, can I spend money? Because the terrain was that good.
And it was
Definitely
MDF.
cheaper than.
And that's
it was an MDF kit, and it rivaled this very easily.
Yeah.
Don't say that too loud. Mel might have a stroke.
Heart attack. Yeah. Anyway.
Mel said that MDF kits have their place.
But
yeah,
this is flat.
There are ways around that, though.
I know.
Look, it is what it is. I think the Rebel Pilot looks interesting, but I'm not sure I would buy the box just for the Rebel Pilot.
I don't think he comes with it.
Yeah, it does. It does say included.
Included?
Yeah, Rebel Pilot.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd buy it just for the pilot.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
honestly,
because of the way that Legion is, they have this thing where it be sold where you kind of have to buy everything.
Actually, he might be part of the scenario.
He would be.
You have to rescue him.
I'm sorry, but this is just a generic Rebel thing that I'm not using in my army. I'm just going to use that instead and then use the rules because it's not going to be hard to find these rules.
How dare you, Bruce?
I know, right? Also, I don't play Legion, so my opinion doesn't matter.
Did it ever?
Well, I don't think this is the worst piece of terrain they've done. I've certainly seen worse. I don't think it's very exciting, though. It's just, it is. It is what it is.
When you have actual companies out there specifically focusing on and doing just terrain, it's really hard as the company making the game, focusing on the game and the miniatures for the game to divert attention for terrain, I believe.
Yeah. But this is not a $100 product.
No.
It's not even close to a $100 product.
Reason why is it's all resin. That's why.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's all resin.
That does explain the price.
Because
learn to recycle like TT.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, speaking of terrain.
Yes.
Earlier this week or so, Shatterpoint, Star Wars Shatterpoint released, Atomic Mass Games released some terrain boxes that's coming out for Shatterpoint.
Yep. Now, this is stuff that we have seen already. Like, this is stuff that was shown off in the trailers, but that's okay.
They have the High Ground Terrain Pack, which I think is an awesome name, and the Take Cover Terrain pack. So the high ground is just a bunch of a couple towers that you have some walkways in between, and then the high ground or the terrain pack. The take cover one is just some brick, some columns of rocks.
Yeah.
Some other scattered terrain you can hide behind.
Is Ventress the name you were trying to come up with?
Yeah, Ventress. Yep. So if you look at the overall starter box centerpiece, you see Ahsoka and Ventress, and they have some very dynamic poses compared to what Spider-Woman has that we were discussing in MCP a few minutes ago.
Yeah, look, those poses are still generic in ways too, but they're different, and this is the thing that's the important part. They are very different. Like that, neither of those poses are sexualized. Neither of those poses are extremely extravagant in any way. They're fairly simple because it's a starter box. Of course, they're simple. Because have you ever noticed starter boxes have very simple minis? It's almost like it's a thing, but they don't look the same. I mean, you could probably argue that Darth Maul and Ventress looks a little bit similar, maybe, but. Like I was saying earlier, all they needed to do was change the position of that arm, and it looks completely different.
I'm a little disappointed in the high ground box.
Well, the high ground box is the same as the Marvel Crisis Protocol starter set. It's because they also released a starter set which was just a repeat of the Marvel Crisis Protocol starter set terrain, but it came with an extra building that you couldn't get outside of that box, just to add diversity to the table. And they've clearly done the same with this.
Where's the Anakin without legs?
That'll be an expansion piece later on. That'll cost you.
That'll be its own scenario pack.
Look, and because it's such a specific mini, it's such a specific mini, and because cutting off those legs is so difficult, it'll be $150 box.
I like my idea of like they're taking the EA Games model.
Yeah, you're cutting things out and charging more money. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So that's what we got coming up for Legion and Shatterpoint and MCP.
Yeah, look, I like both of the boxes. I think they both got their place. I think I can pretty much tell you without question that high ground is going to collect dust on box shelves for exactly the same reason that the New York City one does, because people are going to look at it and go, well, it's not worth the money. I actually bought a copy of the New Year's one, and it's not New Year's, New York terrain set for MCP. I actually reviewed it recently. I actually do think it's worth the money, but I understand why people don't, because compared to the box set, it's very different. And all you're getting is one extra building, and it's more. But I don't know, like out of the two, the high ground is the more interesting box. And I don't think they're hiding it very well, is the other thing.
Yeah.
The take cover actually, I think it actually comes with more. The other one's a little bit, the other one I suspect is actually going to be modular. I don't know that for a fact, but it doesn't look like that would be very hard to change. It looks very modular. So, I don't know. Look, time will tell. We will see. But, yeah, I think it's... The take cover is going to sell more copies than the high ground will. And it'll be something like 5-1. It'll be significant.
High ground's pretty generic. Like, somewhere I've got, terrain that looks like high ground because it's generic.
It feels like something straight out of 40K. But that's because 40K stole most of their stuff from other franchises. I said it.
Moving on, we have some new stuff from Corvus Belli.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we looked at some Corvus Belli stuff. I'm going to start by talking about the one that upset a lot of people, which is the Moran Messiah Hunters. And the reason this is upsetting a lot of people is because this is the box set that comes with 6 minis. 4 of those minis are the koalas, and don't get me wrong, I love the koalas. I've always loved the koalas. But these are old sculpts that have existed since 2nd edition that everybody that wants the other 2 minis already have like 8 copies of, because they come with several things beforehand. So people got upset because they have to buy stuff that they very clearly didn't need again. I have 2 of these, and I'm not heavily in. I have Infinity stuff, but I've never been into it heavily, and I also still have these. That probably tells you everything you need to know about how common the koalas are. The other 2, I really like the other 2 minis. I mean, I like all of the minis, but the Mora and Masai are gorgeous. Like really gorgeous. I quite like them.
Can we talk about the most amazing mini on this page right now?
Are we going back to the group once? Are we talking about the doggy?
Yes, McMurrow, mercenary dog warrior.
Yeah. So what is he? What is he, George?
McMurrow, mercenary dog warrior.
No. He's the goodest of boys. He is the good boy.
With that sword, I guarantee you, he's probably not that good. He's probably disemboweled a few people with that.
If you don't call him a good boy, he will stab you. I agree. Look, McMurrough is a character that did already exist. This new version is it shoots the old one out of the water. Like it destroys the old one.
If the scale was right, I would buy this as like my squad leader for my Wolfen.
Scale wouldn't be far off. The weapons are all going to look wrong though.
Meh. Can fix that, but
green stuff.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, if the scale was right, this guy would be like a brilliant like Wolfen like captain. Like it's so cool, and he's wearing a kilt too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I love that he's wearing a kilt.
He also has some Scots Guard coming with him, which I also quite like.
Did you say Scots Guard or Scotch Guard?
Scots Guard.
Scotch Guard is a waterproofing spray we have here in America.
Ah, okay.
And it's also like tartan. So,
yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's also a whiskey. Scotch.
Is it?
Scotch is a whiskey, yes. It's the other one that's not bourbon.
Well, bourbon is
the
whiskey
better
with
one.
an E. Bourbon is whiskey with an E. Scotch is a whiskey with a Y.
Yeah. So one of them is better, and it's the one that's not bourbon. I said it.
Socks has no idea. I'm not disagreeing.
Socks has opinions, and his opinions is I don't really care.
Yeah, right.
Moving on, we also have some more Morats coming out. The Morats are all gorgeous, and these aren't really going to change my mind on that. The Morats are brilliant. Every time I see more Morats, I get tempted to buy Morats. I don't own any Morats. I don't need any Morats. Stop trying to make me buy Morats.
I think you're going to have to one day.
Carlos, stop it. I don't want Morats. I don't need Morats. Release things that aren't Morats so that I don't buy Morats. These are gorgeous. I love them. Yeah. Yeah, these are gorgeous and I love them. So this is all stuff that's coming out next month. I believe it's next month. And yeah. No, this is stuff that's out this month. It is new though. All right. Moving on. One last positive thing before we get to the big news this week. And it's news that we have been expecting for a while. But before we get to it, Turnip 28. I did a couple of unboxings for Turnip 28 a little while ago. Those boxes are still on the shelf over there. Be quiet. It's not my fault. I got distracted. So, Turnip 28 is a game system that you can get into for free. It was built around the idea of it's all post-apocalypse, humans don't exist anymore, and root vegetables have taken over the world. So, literally, it's Turnip and it's in 28mm.
Well, you can't beat that.
No. It also, basically, it's Napoleonic-type miniatures, but converted to look like they're root vegetables.
I don't think you got that.
Oh, I did. I just ignored it.
Okay.
That was rutabaga of you.
That's even worse. So, yeah, it's Napoleonics, but with root vegetables. Like, it's really, really easy conversion stuff to do. Like, all you really need to do is, like, cover over the faces of the heads with some tufts and stuff. They are releasing some digital STLs to help build your armies out. They have for a very long time, like, there's been stuff that you could get for this made by other people, but you couldn't really buy anything from them. He really had no income into this incredible game that he's created. Like, it's very, very good. And I like the fact that he actually finally, actually be able to get something out of all of the work that he's done. The sculpts are also really gorgeous. I like in the first set of bodies how there's literally a bunch of carrots that's walking around inside a coat. Like, what's not to like about that? Yeah, very, very different, very, very good. You can have a lot of fun with this. I like the fact that there's peg legs that you can buy that's literally root vegetables. Like, there is actually a beat there. He's doing some really nice work here. I did back this because I want to support the guy. If you want to get in on this, like I said, this is a game that you can pick up for free. If you do a Google search for Turnip28, you will come across Facebook groups, official websites, and everything. Very, very easy to get into. Buying Napoleonic miniatures is not hard and not expensive. You will need to buy quite a few of them, though. So 3D printing is definitely a cheaper option to go. And it means that you can kind of do a little bit more with them as well. He's doing something really nice there. There's new miniatures, there's new rules coming. And it's very well funded by somebody in the community that honestly deserves to make some money out of the work that he's done. I don't know if you have opinions on what you're looking at or not.
This is one of the weirdest things I've looked at in a long time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's very weird.
I can't say I don't like it because I have no reference of what else is like this for me to like more or dislike more than this.
What, you've never pictured root vegetables fighting each other?
No.
No, wow, how shocking. It is very different. Quite deliberately very different. It's very weird. And this is why I'm also not doing a Indie of the Week this week. Because it's not Indie of the Week. Aiming for the Indie. I shouldn't be stealing names from other people.
I will say this is a radish thing the guy is doing.
I agree. It is very rad-ish indeed. Socks, do you also do you have any opinions outside of it being very weird?
No, not much. That's about it. Yep. It is interesting to see him doing it in a Napoleonic style of era game.
Yeah,
too.
that's such a very specific, war scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, the 18s or the 17, whatever. No, it's Napoleonic. It's like when Napoleon was doing stuff, and it's rutabagas and turnips and parsnips and
yeah. I could be wrong on this, but I think part of the reason is because Napoleonics is one of the only things that nobody ever really does play with, stylus wise. Everything else is, everything has been done. Like even like Secret Project has been done, but Napoleonics is always just Napoleonics, and I like somebody actually playing around with it.
Yeah.
Warlord Games has their own Napoleonic set through their Black Powder series.
Yep.
But
moving on. So George, there's this growing story that we've been. I'm going to get off the preview for a second. So,
oh god,
George has had a rant several times over. Like, there's been two common rants that we've had on the podcast over the last few years. One of them is mine, which is when I get tired of Simon always pushing new products onto Kickstarter that don't belong there. And the other one is one that, correct me if I'm wrong, George, you've been forced to hold back because I've had to keep you in line.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, And there's a reason why I'm introducing this and not George, because George will have his time to go off in a second. Mythic Games have been snowballing for quite a while. And we had a conversation, was it last week we had this conversation? I think it was very recently, where we were like, we suspect that if nothing, like we were literally saying, we expect them to be out of business next year. That was our prediction. More accurately, that was George's prediction. And 3 days ago, we get all of the news.
Yeah, so
6 different properties have all been sold.
6? I thought there was 5. What's the 6th one?
Is it only? Oh, I thought it was 3. Oh no, it's 2 and 3. Sorry, no, you're right. It's 5.
Yeah. So yeah, I woke up Friday morning to seeing a link of Monolith Games, where Mythic came from, bought Reichbusters and Solomon Kane.
Yep. Now, Reichbusters is a game that I brought into. I actually have a copy of that. It's still sitting on my shelf. It's a really cool world. It's like, it kind of feels very Wolfenstein-ish. Like it's stepping aside from World War II, and it's sci-fi in World War II. And Reich, as in, yes, obviously Third Reich is the inspiration. Solomon Kane is like a fictionalized version of, well, it's literally the Solomon Kane story, but done as a, yeah. So if you're not familiar, Monolith Board Games they've done quite a few things, but the biggest one in my mind is the Conan one that I played semi-recently. I think that's probably one of their more successful ones. I think as far as companies to buy these projects is concerned, that was definitely the right one.
Yeah. So, immediately after seeing that news, I saw a post by Mythic Games, and this is quite literally the first time in months beyond a Kickstarter update you've heard anything of any merit from the company.
And even their Kickstarter updates haven't had a lot of merit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and to that exception, it wasn't even a post. It was a private message it was a message in a private group about, why am I being spammed with Darkest Dungeon ads? And Leo in this private group said, oh, because Mythic does not have a source of income right now, we have to sell these games to have any sort of revenue stream. And that's when the community just went, holy crap, what's happening? They have no money. What the heck? And then there was a post of 2023. We're going to be moving in different directions. This is also following a community manager and a painter exiting Mythic.
Yep.
There's a third person that actually exited in October. Name starts with a C, and I can't remember. And it was a pretty low key exit. So that's Sam Neely, this painter. 2 other staffing,
never mind all of the people that were let go to hire Sam Neely to begin with.
That too. So, and then they're talking about focusing on intellectual properties. They're not going to do any more launches right now to focus on current projects. And then I saw a post. I couldn't see the article. I got into the group. And we find out that CMON had then bought the rights to Super Fantasy Brawl, Steam Watchers, and Enchanted.
Yep. So basically what they've done is they have sold 5 of their own intellectual properties. Because these were IPs that they had created. Well, you could argue Solomon Kane, because obviously that's a fiction that exists elsewhere. But this is all stuff that they had done. So now... this is huge.
This leaves them with virtually nothing to manufacture and sell right now, with the exception of Darkest Dungeon. And I don't know if you've seen the ads on your Facebook feed. They're still pushing hard, trying to sell copies of that. Yeah, there's still backers that still have not received their copies,
including you.
I didn't do Darkest Dungeon.
Oh, sorry. No.
My beef is Hell. Hell, I'm wrapped up $280 in. And last update was October of, hey, we've got all the stuff ready. But apparently Siege 6 and there's another game, Necromancers. They're the ones that they're pushing for in 2023. So those were like a year after, the pledge for Hell was, taken out of my bank account, and those were being pushed. So here's the next part. And I've got the numbers here too. This is just numbers on Kickstarter. This is not add-ons and pledge managers. This is just Kickstarter numbers with Hell, Siege 6, Monster Apocalypse, Anister, and Necromancers.
Mm-hmm.
Mythic has an outstanding balance of 6.46 million in projects to send to Kickstarter backers.
Yep.
6.4 million of product to deliver. And they've had to sell. Do they have any intellectual properties left to manufacture with right now, or no?
Well, most of this stuff wasn't being sold retail. Most of this stuff was all Kickstarter exclusive because they're one of these companies that because you got to remember, Super Fantasy Brawl was supposed to be the one where they would finally go to retail with. Nothing had ever gone to retail before that, and Super Fantasy Brawl never made it to retail because of the pandemic.
It did, because they sold it at Gen Con, and Enchanted they sold at Gen Con.
Okay.
Which you can argue that's retail because they had a booth set up to sell.
Yeah, but that's not really what they were talking about.
Yeah. So we have this company that we started to put them in that same category as CMON. They're too big to be on Kickstarter all the time. And then we find out that they are literally doing Kickstarter after Kickstarter, using their reputation, trying to generate funds to literally continue projects that they've spent the money and the funding for already on something else.
I think there might be something you're missing on that. Let me just state something first.
No, go for it.
And then you can correct me if I'm mistaking what you're saying. In the the 6 point whatever million that was that they're owed to customers, that's not seen on books as revenue, that's seen as debt. So that the fact that they don't have any money doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have the funds to complete that. It means that it doesn't count because it's not spoken for yet.
Okay, so of that 6.4 million, 60% of that, in theory, should be set aside for, the manufacturer of the game.
Yes.
The other 40% is profit for paying the employees and all that other stuff. Where's that money at if they're having to sell intellectual properties and they're having to now specifically focus? And here's why they're focusing on Siege 6. There's the video game company
Ubisoft. Yeah.
Siege 6 is Ubisoft's actual property.
Yeah.
Mythic has licensed it to make the game. Mythic has already gotten into legal trouble with Ubisoft for saying something was going to be exclusive, and Ubisoft is like, no, it's not. You can't make this digital content exclusive.
They're also, I believe that there's a story that their license is going to run out before it hits market. I believe was part of the problem as well because it's been delayed so much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they have confirmed that or not, but I know that it was definitely something that was in the news.
And here's the thing. There's so much media silence on their behalf that we can't find these things out until they've actually have to admit something screwed up. Here's a great one. Darkest Dungeon, right? They had the pledge manager, everyone's backing it. Yes, take my money, give me this amazing game. Oh, hey, you've got cards? Yes, here's a card sleeve pack. They close the pledge manager. Next update after that. By the way, if you sleeve all your cards, they won't fit in the box now. And there was such an uproar, they had to reopen the pledge manager and refund all the sleeve packs that people were canceling.
I'm going to agree with you on most of the stuff, but I don't think that's, realistically, that's fairly common in the board game industry. If people... I don't think that's necessarily their fault, that particular one.
Except for they stated that it would... Hell is stated that you'll be able to sleeve your cards and put them in the box. Darkest Dungeon, they did the same thing. And they said, because of the changes and everything that we've made...
Oh, that's different.
This isn't going to happen.
That's different
anymore.
Yeah, so they literally had to reopen the pledge manager, to do that. And that's probably why also Darkest Dungeon was also pushed out so quickly too. Is because another company who owns that property was tied up in that. So,
and they're also going to have already paid for all of those sleeves that they're now not going to sell. So there's a couple of problems here. This company has very clearly been hemorrhaging money for a while. Like, we don't know how much. Like I said, like the fact that they've got $6 million it was, and that's undelivered, is not entirely what we're arguing here, because that money is not like that. That money is separate and it's already spent. In theory, hopefully, because otherwise there's fraud going on.
Well, and that's the next part of the discussion that's happening in the community. Is
the other part is that nobody is actually receiving their product and haven't been for a long time. What's the one that they were holding hostage?
Darkest Dungeon.
It is Darkest Dungeon? Yes.
Yep.
I just wanted to
clarify. That was the one they're saying, hey, if you watch your game, you actually need to give us more money for shipping now.
Yeah. Now,
it's here. It's ready to go.
Like, we're on record for this, and me and George disagreed on this because I kind of said, well, they probably don't have a lot of choice in the matter. This very clearly is evidence that they didn't have choice in the matter. But the fact that they are now selling owned property out from under the original backers is not okay. Granted, I understand that they have to pay to store these things, and if people are choosing not to pay for their postage and it means that they can't afford to send it out to them, I understand, but you also can't sell somebody else's property. That's against the law. It's been paid for. Either they need to come... Because either these people need to be refunded. They said that they would look at it on a case-to-case basis, but were very clearly trying to ask people not to do that. Like, they were almost begging for people to give them more money at that point. And this was quite a while ago.
6 months now?
At least, yeah. And it's gone on for that long that they're now trying to sell it to recoup some of their costs.
Yeah. So Bruce,
this is not good.
Real quick. That 6.4 million that's just from like the initial pledges. Mine was 235. I'm in for a total of 283. Yeah. I added an additional 50
I know. My point wasn't so much the money, it was more that money is not part of what we're having. The thing I was trying to point out was that on book, until that is delivered, it appears as a debt as far as finances is concerned. The fact that they don't have any money, I don't think, from my understanding, unless they're cooking their books, and that is not the accusation we're making here. From what I understand, them not having money doesn't mean that they can't finish the games that they haven't finished, because that money's already been spent. That $6 million it was, plus whatever that we can't track, is already spent on that product. Therefore, it's not in their banks. They don't have any money for regular operating costs. Obviously, if they go out of money, then all of these other games are gone too, because then the company doesn't exist. But that's a separate problem.
And that's the next step, right? I think they're desperately trying to keep from defaulting, because they specifically said they're not launching more campaigns. I think they're specifically trying to keep from defaulting, because if they default on that, they're defaulting on at least 6.4 million. That is going to cause actual lawsuits. No one, governments are going to be like, yeah, you defrauded people.
There's possible conversation about that anyway, which at this particular point, Mythic Games are in big trouble. Now, make no mistake, none of these 5 properties would have been sold if they didn't need to sell them. Reichbusters definitely had more money in it. There was definitely more money in the well for that. It wasn't a perfect game when it came out, from what I understand, but it was still fun. And there was a lot of people waiting for Reichbusters too.
And Super Fantasy Brawl, I had to join that community page to get to the article for CMON, and the amount of people that were upset that CMON owns this now, and they don't support Europe. They don't care about anyone outside of America, and like they're all pissed off at CMON.
CMON also don't have a great reputation right now either, but for different reasons.
But here's the right. They're not mad at Mythic.
No,
oh, CMON's terrible. You know, just like look at Mythic. If Mythic was actually managing things properly and doing things like other manufacturers have, they wouldn't be in this situation. Because if you look at all these other companies that have operated through COVID and all these other problems, they're still in business. They're still doing updates. They're still producing.
Yeah.
You know, here's another one we don't talk a lot about. Awaken Realms.
Yeah. Yep.
They've had no issues.
Yeah. The problem with Kickstarter is if you're relying on Kickstarter and nothing but Kickstarter, which is very clearly what these guys were doing, CMON don't exclusively operate on Kickstarter, but most of their book is. Kickstarter, by design, runs extremely thin. Like, you run the product through, you get a little bit of profit from it, enough to keep on going for the next one. It's like, because that's the cost of you being on Kickstarter. People won't back it if they're not getting a deal. And a lot of the percentage that you should, in theory, be making, like there's a percentage of that actually goes to Kickstarter as well. And playing devil's advocate here, specifically with Darkest Dungeon, you can make an argument that the postage cost on that can be justified because that was before everything went to crap. You cannot make that argument with anything else, though.
But the argument with the argument,
I know.
Yeah,
there's a reason why I worded it the way I did.
Yeah, if they had stayed on their timeline, which that's one of the things of you know,
because it should have been delivered 12 months earlier.
This is our timeline. It should have been delivered before that was even an issue.
Yep.
So,
but very clearly, what they have not done, that companies like CMON do, is made adjustments before the Kickstarter went live of what if something goes wrong, I need to have just-in-case funds. You do not need to advertise that you're putting just-in-case funds as a percentage in there, but you should be putting them in because you know what happens? Bad things, delays, production delays, and all of it costs you money, and you need to make allowances for that. Very clearly, if they didn't allow enough.
And to be fair, too, you know, we're just going to use, you know, CMON again. I think the latest they've been on a project has been 6 months.
Maybe I don't really know.
I have to look here because I'm still tracking it. So Hell is currently 528 days.
Yep. Yeah, it's
past.
Completely unacceptable at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
for those that are wondering, because I vaguely mentioned CMON and not CMON always deliver their product. That is not what I am referring to, and I'm only explaining this because I don't want to be accused of saying things that I didn't. I am specifically, like when I say that their reputation is not very good either, I am specifically talking about the way that the Song of Ice and Fire community have been treated, because there's been a number of times that product has been released for that game that was literally sold at a premium and then unable to be used before it got to the customer. This has happened more than once on that game. That's what I'm referring to as far as reputation is concerned. I do not play that game, so there's no bias there in that. Like, it's just something. There was a whole update that they had to do with the game and rebalancing and stuff, which happens for every game. That's fine. But basically, they did that, and as it was being shipped, they changed it again, meaning that all of these very expensive cards that got sent out to customers were unable to be used by the customers before they received them.
So,
and there was no replacements. There was no like that. That is the sort of thing that CMON have a reputation for.
To be fair, Mythic has done that too. So,
It's not an exclusive thing. I'm just explaining, because not everybody watching is going to understand why parts of the community are going, well, I hate the fact that Super Fantasy Brawl is owned by them now. Because Simon are a very popular company, and some people don't understand how anybody could have a problem with them. And hey, you know what? Games Workshop has a similar reputation, and people don't understand how people... Like, it is something that happens in our space quite regularly.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Hell, there's still people that try to blame TT Combat for the way that the Drop Fleet Commander game was done. And they weren't even involved in the Drop Fleet Commander Kickstarter.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I think that's probably about all we can talk about at this point. I mean, we've covered the details, the shocking, what we were starting to suspect.
Yeah.
It is that bad.
Yeah, I don't think Mythic are out of the woods yet either. I very much think that they're not out of the woods. It's how they deal with these funds at this point that's going to make the difference. I am certainly not going to sit here and say that I think Mythic Games are okay now. I think Mythic Games need to prove a lot of things before people are going to be comfortable with them. And it needs to start with trying to negotiate with the Darkest Dungeon guys first. If they don't have a choice in the matter, they need to come to the party in some ways. They need to deal with that because it's not okay.
I think another thing they should probably start doing too is maybe consider making games not exclusive and just, here's a game, back it, and it's going to go to retail.
Yeah.
And don't do exclusive games.
Well, the entire industry needs to make a change anyway, because I said this quite a few months ago, and I'm going to say it again. Big box games are very clearly not as marketable as they once were. Shipping is just going to make that too difficult from now. Moving on. This is a nice little quick one. Last episode, we had a look at Crooked Dice. Me and Socks had a lovely look through their website. I did not talk about the fact that these are coming, because these are definitely not Gremlins. It's definitely not Gremlins. See, they're called Gribblies. It's totally different. So just for Sock, I know, George, I think you're familiar with Crooked Dice when I tried to look at them the first time. There's a lot of things that they release that are very recognizable, and it's like, I know what that's supposed to be, but it's not that. It's very much a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of definitely not James Bonds. There was definitely not Flash Gordon. What else did we see while we were looking? They have definitely not whatever he meant. Definitely not Ghostbusters. I own them. Yeah, these are definitely not Gremlins, to the point where you can literally see stuff from the movies. Like you've got the Flasher Gribbly, you've got the Caroler Gribbly, you've got the guy wearing his 3D glasses, the scientist from the second movie.
Gizmo.
There's definitely not Gizmo. Yeah, they're different enough that you can argue that yes, okay, they are their own thing. I really like this stuff, and I'm going to say this. I think there's money in an actual proper Gremlins board game. And if somebody was to do it, I think Simon would be the right company. Because basically all you need to do is reskin Zombicide to make it work and change a few. That's all you would need to do. You would have to change a few things, obviously.
You're not wrong. You are so not wrong. Oh my god.
It's money waiting to be printed. Now, granted, somebody else could also just take it and reskin it too. There was a company that did that with the Ghostbusters one that I used to have. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I really like these. They're so cute.
I would love that game. So, yeah, like I vaguely remember looking at this. I clicked on some of the other things, and yeah, this is like, it's not this.
Yeah.
Look at what my hand's doing over here. These are not this. Look at my hand. It's over here. It's doing a thing. See,
yeah.
Look.
Yeah. I know I said this last episode, but if you haven't already, have a look at the Crooked Dice website. Like, seriously, have a look at the website. I guarantee you they will have things that you will recognize and that you will want to find a reason to use them. If you want to reskin a game and have something that's like, if you want to reskin Warhammer and have it so that it's not around sci-fi and it's around goblins, you could very easily do, like, very, very easily do that on this website. Yeah. Let's discuss some hobby.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
George, you've had 4 weeks since we've last seen you. Oh, it's all arrived. Or are you still waiting on the other one?
Yeah, so the Sigmar was available for order way before the 40K was. So
there's also been delivery issues with a lot of this stuff too.
Not that I've heard of, but
no, there's stores that didn't receive their stock that they were supposed to get, and they've had to go. Yeah, which is that's just a thing that happens in this industry,
like an actual logistics thing. Not okay. Yeah. I do have the Custodes box on the way too, because that is an army I've been wanting to do, and it's right around $100 savings on each box, except for the Skaven. I think the Skaven was. I think it was like 120 savings on the Skaven box.
So you don't want to have friends anymore? That's what you're admitting? Like you want to scare off the last of the friends that you still have?
What, with the Custodes?
Yeah, like you're not allowed to have friends and Custodes at the same time.
That's not true. It's a myth. So, but yeah, I've always wanted to do a Custodes army just like for the look, not so much maybe. I mean, okay, yes, they're high point value per model, so you don't need, 30,000 like you do with Skavens.
Yeah,
so,
but that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah. So I like armies that are high point value because I have to buy less. So, but at the savings, I was just like, I've always wanted trees. I've always wanted them. I love the look of them, and I've always wanted them because of how they play.
Hold the box up again because Socks looks like he's confused.
No, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the Siren.
Oh, you
Siren?
Siren's not in the book.
Not the Siren. Sorry, the Immortal that we saw for Drop Squad.
That's right. Yes. Good point. We will come back to. We will do game talk. Okay, we'll do game talk, and we're going to talk about Drop Squad.
Da-da-da-da! Anyway,
so
I forgot. I'm sorry.
You're good.
I really haven't gotten much done. Anything else otherwise? Except I did put my table to use as a secondary table for Thanksgiving, so it's sturdy enough to hold food, so it's sturdy enough to game on.
Yep.
Good test.
Right?
Yep. Hobby-wise for me, since I last showed off my Black Sun Enforcers, I've done nothing because I was waiting to get the new purple bottle of paint that I was wanting to get. And I was at the game store today, actually, and because I didn't want to do it over Black Friday. I'm not going out and dealing with crowds for one bottle of paint. And so
that's a good decision.
Yeah, so I got my bottle of paint. So over the next 2 weeks, actually, I'll probably have most of that stuff done by the time we come back on the 7th of January, because I have almost every other day off in between Christmas and New Year's off of work. So I should have plenty of time to, and we're not going anywhere. So I should have plenty of time to finish up my Lats as well as my Black Suns. So
that's fair.
Bruce, what are you up to? Nothing.
Well, no, I have had a few things. All right. So I have a secret project that I've been working on. And it's a very secret project. There's definitely not at least 30 to 40 people that know about this by now. It's very secret. I have admitted what the secret project is a few times. I am actually working on a game of my own. And I have been working on models for that. And I'm going to show off some of my work. Maybe, possibly. Where's the thing? There we go. So, first things first. This is an Infinity model. That is, well, his name is Fat Yuan. And originally, this is holding a gift. And originally, the bit that I just knocked off. Where did it go? Originally, this, which is a giant jetpack, was covered in gifts as well. As you can see, I'm very slowly cutting off all of the gifts. I'm probably going to have to recreate the top of... Well, no, probably. I will have to recreate the top of the jet turbine. Because basically, I'm trying to convert it so that it doesn't look like a Christmas mini, and then it's just a guy on a motorbike. I've cut off his Santa hat, and now it's kind of more of just like a skull cap type thing. It is probably a little flatter than it should be, but it's just a test model. It's fine. Like literally, these are just test models, and that's all they're intended. I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. The gift that he was holding, I slowly cut out as well, and he's now holding what is essentially going to be a lead pipe. And otherwise, it's just a big burly guy on a motorbike, because of course it is. So I'm really happy with how that's turning out. Really happy. Our Patreons have been seeing this for at least a month at this point. So I've also been working on some Games Workshop models, because I've been tempted to buy these for a while for test models, and I finally gave in. So these are all lightly, very lightly converted to the point where on this particular model, the only thing that's changed, you'll notice all of them have things cut off their shoulders, which was sci-fi looking lights, and my game is not sci-fi, so I wanted to get rid of those. Everything else is just like, yeah, look, I know it looks sci-fi, but it's just for a test model. I don't care too much. This kit actually does come with melee options as well as guns, so I've deliberately given these guys melees. So this guy has a crowbar. This guy has an axe that he's holding in the most uncomfortable way possible. Like, literally. Like, that's not going to work. There's also this guy with a hammer. It's like a comically large ball-peen hammer. You'll all notice that none of them have faces, because they are not going to be getting there. These are originally from the Gene Stealer cult, and obviously I want these guys to be human, so they will be getting human heads. And then I have a quad. I didn't have any quad bikes. I don't have the rules for these finalized yet. I know in my head how they work, but they're not being tested yet because I'm not ready for that. But this is supposed to have like a giant gun on the back, which I did not include, and I've covered it over with... This is like an ammo box that actually had an ammo clip that continues out. I cut off the ammo clip. And then this is for a flamer that also had a hose that connected to the gun, and I cut the hose off, so now it just looks like he's just packed a whole heap of random stuff. And because he can, I've also covered over the front of the bike with another bag, because I can. And he's holding a wrench, because, I don't know, traveling at 80 kilometers an hour and hitting somebody over the head with a wrench sounds like a smart idea. Speaking of smart ideas, one of these guys has a mine sitting on the top. Oh no, there we go. I didn't use the mine in the end. He has fuel tanks on the back of his bike, because there's nothing that could ever possibly go wrong with that.
Bruce, real quick, just a quick interjection as you're talking about doing an ATV with ATV rules and stuff like that.
Yes?
Please consider the old, riding death machines of the tricycle ATVs as a model in your game.
As in, like...
An ATV with one wheel in front, like a tricycle, that if you turn too sharp, you roll and kill yourself on.
Oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. Like, you should consider, like, maybe adding those, too, because that would be very fitting for what you're trying to do, I think.
Possibly. I'd have to work a little bit on that. Quad-wise, the big thing with quads, obviously, for those that don't know, the big thing on quads is that when you're riding a four-wheeler, you can't really take corners very well at a speed, because you will roll the thing and kill yourself. So that's going to be the weakness of those, is they are going to have to slow down before they turn corners. But I'm not at the level.
More so if you got three wheels, one in front. Which is why they outlined them in the States, 20 years ago?
In the 80s.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
Yeah, you don't...
30 years ago.
You can buy trike Harleys for some reason.
Because the way those are set up, yeah, like they're lower and like the wheel like goes like this instead of like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So yeah, at this particular point, I am in the testing phase. I'm only testing core mechanics at this stage. This is a project that you will hear snippets of here and there. This is what I was on the Beasts of War or on Tabletop show talking about a few months ago when we mentioned that. So it is news that's out there. Game talk.
Talk nerdy to me.
So, Socks.
New photos.
It wasn't you that was talking about this. It was Nigel. Me. So, was it last episode? Yeah, it was last episode.
Yeah.
We were talking about how, like, where Drop Squad got its name from. TT Combat, it's called Drop Squad, for the record. It's going to be called Drop Squad, whether you call it that or not.
The community will call it Drop Squad.
Yeah. If you don't, we will make sure that the entire community does call it Drop Squad. You'll just have to redo all your packaging to call it Drop Squad.
It's a name that we gave to you for free. Just use it. It's fine. We don't even want credit for it. Anyway.
A little bit of credit.
3 minutes here for all of us.
Maybe make a joke at the fact that we're not getting credit. No, actually, no, don't do that. That would actually come in. If they did that, people would think that they're actually, people would actually think that they're stealing credit for something, which they're not. So that's probably bad advice. Anyway, we have already seen The Scourge. We saw that 12 months ago? Because that was part of the 12 days of Christmas. Yeah. So, yep. This week, we have had a few things. Well, over the last 2 weeks, sorry. Yeah. So, we had seen this particular image already. This is the Pungari. And when we were talking last episode, we were trying to figure out whether the Shaltari in the background was actually a mini or if it was a picture, because it could have been either. Well, we now know for a fact that it was definitely a mini. That is the mini. Or at least that's the prototype of the mini. We have also now seen the Resistance. And as of this morning, we've also seen the PHR. I think PHR has taken the number one spot as far as model is concerned. Yeah. Like that is easily the best model in the Drop Squad Commander range right now. Now, just for the record, they're definitely not working on a Drop Squad Commander game. We're definitely not getting a Drop Squad Commander coming out at some point soon. That's why we've seen 4 of the 5 factions. So it's definitely not happening.
Which is also they've released in the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see UCM in the next week or so.
I would be surprised as well. The UCM is the only one we haven't seen. It's going to be interesting. It's gotten to the point where we've actually started making predictions as to when the release is going to happen. My prediction was Gen Con next year. Because it's a fairly common release time.
That still gives them 8 months or so for playtesting, model development, all that stuff.
It's either going to be that. It's either going to be that, or Gen Con will be where they're talking about a Kickstarter if they intend to do it as a Kickstarter, which wouldn't entirely surprise me.
Or a third option, because of where they're at, UK Games Expo.
True. Actually, that is a good point. If they were doing Kickstarter, that would make sense. Now,
what time of year is that again? I'm trying to remember
June?
when UK Expo is.
Fall?
June?
Yeah,
fall?
I want to say
it's fall. It's not during the winter, so it's I want to say May, maybe.
So Star Wars Legion, when that was announced, it was announced at Gen Con, but they didn't release it until Christmas time. So Gen Con, TT Combat could do the same thing. They could do the show at Gen Con.
I was right.
UK Expo. Okay. So they could do UK Expo or Gen Con as their pre-show release and then wait until Christmas time of next year as the actual release. Who knows? But I think Gen Con or UK Expo would be... Probably Gen Con would be more realistic.
Yeah.
In terms of...
It depends on how... It depends on how far along the development of the game is.
Agreed.
We definitely did not have confirmation that it was being worked on during an interview that we did last year. There definitely was not hypotheticals raised about how they would develop it if it was a thing that existed. We know for a fact that Drop Squad Commander is something that they have been working on. We have had confirmation off the record that it was in the pipeline several times. We also, then again, have a fairly working knowledge of how large that list is of things. So it was always a question of when it actually became a priority. I suspect that given that we are now seeing minis, that it is a priority. So, Drop Squad Commander, the name comes 5 years ago from an interview that was done by... No. It was done by Nigel.
It was done by Nigel, but I also talked about it a little bit at Gen Con too, and Dave said, no, I'm not going to say anything at that time too, so...
Oh, okay, fair enough. It just wasn't on record.
The original, I need to pull a hard drive to see if I still have it on there.
We're actually looking for the original. Because the interview comes from before the Getting Tabled days. It's from our old group. If we can find it, we have permission to use it from the person that did the interview. So, because I would like to do a history of it, including the interview that I was hinting at earlier, and everything that we've seen. So.
I distinctly remember how the question was asked because Nigel did not have his reading glasses, and he was trying to read the question, and Dave was just like, "What? Let me read that." And he's like, "Are you going to do?" He's like, "No comment. Nope, can't comment on that."
Yeah, from memory, it was George's question. From memory,
yes.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm fairly sure it was George that coined the phrase Drop Squad Commander, which is why I always make the thing about we're giving you the name for free. We don't want credit because we made it up for you. That is where that comes from.
If you want to give us credit and send us an army,
by all means. Well, I'll take one. And if you want us to preview it, we'll be happy to preview them too.
Oh, we'll happily preview it. In fact, we'll preview it, definitely.
PHR, Nasty Scourge, and Nasty Shatari. But I'll have the best one, so who cares?
Shotsnenigans.
If by any chance that's even vaguely considered, please give us a heads up so that I can maybe try to get time off and actually paint the stuff up in advance before we show it off. Just for the record. Not like we do not expect these things. But
no.
Yeah. So there we go. We've had our game talk.
Just call it Drop Squad. Just call it Drop Squad. Just do that.
That's all we have. Anyways.
The reason that we're saying this is everybody's going to call it that anyway. We know for a fact because it was set off the record. Well, I know for a fact because it was set off the record that they were trying to toy around with coming up with a name for the game. And funnily enough, companies rarely do that if it's a game that they're not actually going to make or are maybe already making. So, and the fact that we know that we're not getting Drop Fleet Commander 2nd edition anytime soon means that they have to have been working on something else. All right.
Anyway, back to the original game talk?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The Scourge?
It is.
Scourge.
All right. So, the Scourge are very clearly the heroes of this game. Why else would you call them? Why else would you call them the Scourge? It's very clearly propaganda made up by the UCM because they're trying to hide the fact that the UCM is the true villains of the game. That's why the PHR got kicked off the planet and da-da-da. Yep. Anyway.
Kicked off. We left valiantly. Then died valiantly at the same time.
The PHR showed up and said, "You will all die. Please come with us and we will save you. Listen to the White Sphere."
Yep. And so they ran away like cowards. The UCM got defeated and then run away like cowards. Didn't even try to rescue the Resistance at all. The Resistance are the real scourge of this. I mean, they just won't let... All the Scourge want to do is take over every planet that they come to. What's so wrong with that?
By also being chased by the Shaltari. Or are they? Anyway.
Who are ready to go and we shoot things.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, we're following on with our conversation that we kind of had a couple weeks ago with UCM on what to build with your Scourge army after you get your starter set.
Yeah. So starting off first, so the Scourge starter army is literally 2 of the older starter sets for the price of one of them, with an extra mini attached. So you get 12 bases of Scourge warriors, all in Invader APCs. You also get 6 Marauder dropships, which is the CD stacker looking things here in the back of the image.
That's the mini CD stacker.
Yeah, I know. I have the big CD stacker. There is literally one that's like 3-4 times the size. It's huge.
It's a good 6 or 7 inches. Anyways.
Yeah. You also get the Despot, which is the resin mini. Where is it? Is it in the image? Yeah, there. It's in the center. It's in the center here. So that's what you get in this particular. So as you can see in the image, you do get quite a lot for your £35.
You should get some hunters and some what are they? Rapiers.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I did. I knew I was missing something. So the tanks here is I can never remember which one is which. I think it's the rapiers in the front and the hunters off to the side.
The Reapers are the AA tanks. The Reapers are the main anti-tank.
Reaper is the one with the 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was right. Good. Yep. I was right. That's all that matters. So that's what you get in your starter set. It's actually a pretty good starter set. In all honesty, this is what most people were buying in the old version anyway. They were basically buying 2 starter sets and combining them together and then attaching stuff. But like in our original conversation with the UCM, we would like to suggest a couple of things to add. Now, these aren't necessarily the utmost things that's going to destroy all of your opponents. We're just trying to add things that do something that the starter set does not, or gives you options. We are deliberately not discussing the behemoths, because our opinion is that you don't want to start the game there. You want to build to that later. Because once you add a behemoth into the game, it's a different game. So, we're not saying that they're not good. They are good. We know that. It's just, if you're starting out, it's not where you want to start. Build up to that to play later. George, you want to speak about some very pretty pets that definitely aren't giant worms that's going to tear through your body?
Well, yeah, so take the razor worms, because that transport, it shoots them, so...
Well, I haven't got to that yet.
Oh. Well, then why am I talking
Spoilers.
about this when that's a follow-up?
No, I was going to talk... I was going to talk about that next. That's okay.
Anyways.
Oh, am I talking about the other one?
No, you're talking about the razor worms.
Why are you talking about some razor worms?
So, well, they don't take up any spots in the transport. Well, you were talking about the transport that shoots them, and that's why I was talking about the razor worms. So, you should have talked about the transport first.
It doesn't matter, George. Just keep going.
Yeah. So, 1, they're cheap. 2, they don't take up any transport slots in the actual transport. They just, they go. You can't embark them, but they do start embarked. But you shoot them. They don't actually,
So, okay. There's a couple of ways that you can use the razor worms. You can, in theory, pay for these, and they will come onto the board in a transport and then disembark. If you're doing it that way, they do take up one of your spots. Alternatively, the unit I'm going to talk about next has the ability to fire these things, which basically means that you're spawning them. So it's 2 different scenarios there. They come in squads of 1 to 3. They can only move 3 inches, so you do need to get them onto the board somehow. But once they come out of their transport, they can't go back in.
Yep. Yeah, so it's kind of a one and done thing. That it's get them in the building, harass the opponent's infantry in there.
Yeah. So you're walking you're walking into the call center full of scammers with a lunchbox full of cockroaches. You open the box and run away. You're never getting those cockroaches back in the box again.
This is one model I would love to see for Drop Squad. I mean, we'll probably see them, but I want to see the mini for Drop Squad.
Oh, I agree.
For sure.
I would argue that these have to be in Drop Squad. Something else that I'm going to talk about, I would argue, needs to be in Drop Squad as well. Armor 8, damage 3, infantry 2+. They are bloodthirsty, which I believe is the thing where they can't hold objectives. Dodge a 5+. They have teeth and claws, so everything is close quarters. Energy 7, reduced 1. Plus, they look cool. I love these things. I was going to talk about, thanks for the spoilers, the Corruptor Hive ship. Because A, it looks cool. Look how cool it looks. This is 80 points. They come in a squad size of 1 to 2. They move 24 inches. They got active countermeasures. It's got an armor of 10. Damage 2. It's an aircraft. I mean, of course it is. It has a plasma hose. It can move and fire for 12 inches. It's only front arc. Full range is 6 inches. Close is 6 inches. So it's only shooting close up. But that's kind of the Scourge thing anyway. 5 shots. Accuracy of 4+, 4 energy. And it's got a focus 3. But this is the thing that George was referring to. Razorworm pod. During this squad's activation, each unit may launch a Razorworm volley at a garrison within 6 inches. Roll 1 dice for each unit launching a volley. Rolls of 1 have no effect. For every roll of 2 to 4, place 1 unit of Razorworm in that garrison. For every roll of 5 to 6, 2 units of Razorworms in that garrison. All Razorworm units launched into a garrison at the same time from the same squad count as a single squad. That squad is the same battle group as the launching squadron and may activate in the same round they are spawned, although do not have to re-roll damage if shooting unit in the garrison this round. The garrison receives an equal number of collateral damage tokens to units of Razorworms placed. So, yes, like George was hinting at, the thing I was going to talk about launches these guys, which is why I wanted you to talk about them first before I did.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But yeah, that's why you would want to pick up some Razorworms, because that's a good unit to pick up. And then if you're going to be able to launch Razorworms for free, launch Razorworms. You're going to need Razorworms. Get them.
Yeah. You are going to need them. They are a must buy, I would argue. They also, they come in, I want to say it's a thing of 6. I would probably recommend by picking up 2 packs of them, just because it's a good thing to have. Because there's multiple ways that you can use these. Also, they're quite, you get 6 units of them for £8. It's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
So, Socks, what are you covering first?
So I would recommend a heavy unit called the Subjugator Arthropod, which is a mech unit, squad size of 1, 100 points, has a movement 8, active countermeasures, 13 armor, 9 damage. It's a walker type. It's large and is resilient as well. It has a transport value of 3 for the type of transporter it takes. It has an electroweb caster, which is a fire value of 4, front arc, 9-inch full, 9-inch countered, 1 shot, accuracy 2+, energy 12, but it's also a tech killer. So if you're facing behemoths, this thing can do really well, but this thing can't be used for buildings in particular. That's what tech killer is. But then also has residue claws, so if you're 1 inch away, which is the range for this thing, full or countered, you get 2 shots and 2+ accuracy for 10 energy, because it has a bunch of claws on it that you can use to take apart some smaller, lighter tanks and whatnot. But one of the reasons why I would take this is because its movement of 8 allows you to get within 6 inches of someone, because it has a subjugation field, and enemy non-behemoth units that activate within 6 inches of this unit reduce the number of actions they can perform by 1 to a minimum of 1. So if you get this thing close, the number of actions your enemy is going to be able to perform is going to go down. Additionally, enemy infantry may not benefit from the scan tokens while they are in the garrison they are occupying, and are also within 6 inches. So this is nice because there are some scenarios where the objectives are considered hidden, and the infantry have to go in and try and find those. And if they have scan tokens that they've gotten from nearby allied units, that benefits their ability when they're rolling the dice for these scanning rolls. And so if you have one of these subjugators nearby, they can't benefit from those tokens and may allow you to find the objective sooner
Before
than they will.
Yeah.
Yep. So, pretty nice.
Very much doing something that the starter box can't, like quite literally.
Yeah.
And playing around with your opponent's abilities and making it harder is fun.
Fun. Indeed.
Always fun.
Yep. George, the other
Speaking
one
of
we
fun-
gave you was...
The Screamer.
Yes, the Screamer, that's right.
Now this thing's brilliant. It is an exotic, so you can only have, a few for so many points. But it is so worth the points of 40 that it costs. It has a move of 6, E+2 for its CM, armor of 9, damage of 4, infantry 2+. So this is an infantry that goes into the buildings just like everything else, and it's huge. With its armor of 9 and damage of 4. It's also bloodthirsty, so it can't hold anything. But that doesn't matter, because huge claws, front and side with a range of 1 inch, 2 shots, accuracy of 2+, energy of 11.
Yeah, so you're getting through armor quite easily.
Infantry taking out a tank, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is what it's for, yeah.
Yeah, and then it has a hunting scream, which is close quarters, 1 shot. That's it. It screams.
Yep.
But there's more. There's more. It's abhorrent. An enemy infantry in the same or linked garrison suffer a further -1 penalty when searching for objectives, and a +1 penalty to their fortitude. So that's cool.
Yeah, because they're so
Squeeze.
busy panicking that this giant monster's coming after them, they can't think and look properly.
Yeah, no, for sure. Squeeze. When this unit enters a garrison or starts its activation in a garrison, it causes D3 collateral damage to that garrison. So, a free D3 roll. Bruce, even you can't screw that up too bad.
Oh, I'll get at least a 1. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, but 1, 2, or 3. I mean, getting a 1, that's better than 1 or 6.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, Hunting Scream. When a unit is targeted by this weapon, the Screamer doesn't roll damage as normal. Instead, the controlling player rolls a dice for every damage point remaining in the targeted squad and consults their fortitude. For every roll under the fortitude value, that squad loses 1 damage point with no save of any kind.
This thing is nasty.
So,
and when enemy units already have a penalty of +1 to their fortitude rolled, this thing's going to tear through infantry pretty quickly. Especially if there are other exotics, which is kind of nasty.
Which, and that's why it is an exotic, you can't just, spam these. So,
yeah.
But if you do put this in the right building, it will be effective and it will frustrate your opponent. You're not going to hold an objective with it, but you counter that with some of the other features of the Scourge Army, and you're really not going to care about, holding all the objectives. You're going to care about, frustrating your opponent, prevent them from holding an objective while you hold other objectives.
Plus, look at the mini. Look at how huggable this thing clearly is. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Wouldn't you just like to snuggle with this thing for it? No, you would be running, terrified from this thing. It is also probably worth noting that both of their weapons that affect infantry specifically state either targeted or enemy. So you can still have your guys in those buildings and still achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. But obviously you want to get your guys out before the building collapses. That's going to be your thing. Socks. You had a cool way of getting this onto the board.
So yes. This next one I'm going to talk about is the Harbinger troop ship, which can bring in these screamers, but there's a second variant, which is the drop ship, which can bring in the subjugator that I talked about first. So either one of these it would be great. You can actually magnetize these,
yes,
so that you can change just the little front chin piece that they have. So I'll just go over the troop ship, for example. It has a movement of 18, armor or active countermeasures, 11 armor, 4 damage. It's an aircraft type. It can carry 2 screamers, or 1 subjugator. The drop ship can carry 1 subjugator. Or you can carry Where's the other symbol?
That's
Or
the
is that it?
drones. So, for example, the spider
you're right.
drone.
Yeah. So it can carry 2 drones as well. No,
or
it's not the drones.
vampires.
Yep. The vampires. So you can carry 2 vampires as well. But anyways, back to the unit stats. So these things have a plasma bomb, which is a 9-inch movement fire. It's a rear arc, range 3 full and range 3 countered. 1 shot, 5+, 11 energy. It has Devastator 2 against infantry and scenery. So you get this thing near infantry that's out in the open, and you're going to just tear through these, as well as buildings or other scenery items. But then you can have optional weapons as well. You can get a mini arc caster, which also has a 9-inch move and fire, front arc, 6-inch full, 6-inch countered, 1 shot, 6+ accuracy, 7 energy, sorry. And it's an AA2. So this thing can help shoot down enemy aircraft flying by. Or you can get an acid screamer for, again, a 9-inch move and fire, front arc, 6 inches range, full and countered, 8 shots, 3+ accuracy, 4 energy, and it's a flame weapon. So the mini arc caster special rule is if targeting an aircraft, this weapon hits on a 2+. If targeting a scenery piece, this weapon hits on a 6+. So that's your little mini arc caster. And then you can take the arc caster or the acid streamer for 15 points. So you can take either one of those. But again,
you can't have both. It's one or the other.
Correct. But again, with this thing taking in either streamer or the drone or the vampires or the subjugator, depending on what variant you're taking. Also having that plasma bomb that you can destroy enemy infantry or destroy buildings is pretty handy to have as another type of troop ship, drop ship variant. Because you're going to want to get those other units in quickly onto the board, and these are the only ones that can take it if you're going to take a subjugator or those screamers.
Yeah. So there's 2 different models here. One of them is the Harbor Drop troop ship that can take the screamer and or vampires or drones.
Vampires. Or
the Harbinger dropship can take the Subjugator and or vampires. The weapon options on both of them are the same, with the exception that the dropship can't have the flamer. Otherwise, everything else is the same. And then finally, I wanted to talk about something that's not related to anything else. It's Big Halting Brutes, the Demolisher. In the 2 games that I've played of this game, I used the Demolishers and just ran through things. It was just so much fun. These are shock troops, so you will want to bring these on. They only have a movement of 2. Countermeasures are passive 4+. I believe it's passive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Passive.
Armor 9, damage 3. They're infantry type 2+. They are resilient, which is lovely. They cannot move and fire, but they have a plasma charger, front, side, and rear, 6 inches, either full or counted, 3 shots, 3+ accuracy, energy 10, reduced 1. They also have a shard cannon, which is only close quarters, 6 shots. There is no energy on that because it's close quarters. 5 energy, reduced 2. They are tough. Re-roll successful collateral damage hits against this unit. In addition, this unit may enter a garrison from any direction, regardless of entrances. These things just walk through the wall. They don't care.
Wall.
Yeah.
They make their own door.
Yeah. These things are nuts.
They go incorporeal?
No, they just walk through the wall.
Oh, like Wile E. Coyote and like...
Yeah.
Through. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just make their own door. Yeah, quite literally. And because you're re-rolling successful collateral damage, if the building does go down on top of them, they actually have a second chance to survive that. So, plus they look cool. These things are brilliant. I love these things. They are just nasty. They are troops, so you can take them as regular. They're not limited per se. I mean, you don't want to spam them. Obviously, warriors and stuff still have their place. But these, like, if there's one particular building that's more important, or you need to get rid of things inside that building, this is what you want to target that building with.
Generally a center objective.
Yeah.
Or one that's in the middle of the board.
Yeah.
Or possibly on the other side of the board.
Yeah, very much so. So that's our Scourge discussion. We're going to be going through these for every faction. But our next episode on January 7th, we will not be covering the Drop Zone. We will be talking about our highlights of 2022. And otherwise, at this particular point in time,
I just want to say, oh my god, some of these troops for Drop Zone Commander are going to look amazing in like a 32mm scale.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Both the Razor Worms and the Demolishers. I mean, Eviscerators too, but I suspect that the Eviscerator is probably going to end up being a giant, monstrous-looking thing. Because obviously being 10 mil, all of these things kind of look small. But at 32 mil, they're going to look huge.
Right, like you look at the Shaltari with the Ronin battlesuit. That thing's going to be like, Redemptor Dreadnought scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. One I'm looking forward to from PHR is Medusa.
Just looked at us like, Medusa's infantry. That would be so amazing.
With her little nano swarm. Oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to possibly seeing her on the table.
Yep. I suspect that her nano swarm won't be as big in 32 mil as it is.
No, I agree. It won't be able to. Yeah.
That's assuming that she's in it. I don't know. It depends on how the game works as to whether there's going to be a place for her specifically. I mean, there will have to be heroes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that makes the most sense to already just have her since that already is a hero, so.
Or they'll have the Siren Core, because they're kind of the hero core. Just below Medusa level.
Siren Core makes a lot of sense. I would love to see Medusa, don't get me wrong, but yeah.
No. Or in their scout, the Valkyries. The Valkyrie assault troops.
Yeah.
For the PHR that have the little wing suits. Those would be awesome to have.
Yeah.
Anyways. Come on, TT Combat.
Yes, we definitely know that you're not working on it. It's very, very... Michelle's prediction for Drop Squad, by the way, is Christmas, which is also makes a lot of sense. But
like the 25th day of the Advent calendar?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not a bad one, actually.
But he was talking about the release. As in, release for Christmas next year. It would have to be. It would have to be before Christmas. But obviously, the idea is that they would want people to be buying it for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you speak with TT Combat, they will literally only say one thing, which is that nothing's being worked on at this stage.
No comment.
Or no comment. Yeah, it will be the same.
Firstborns would be fun too, George. As Shaltari, the Firstborns, because they have the energy shorts from like Halo.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Those guys would be fun to have.
I want a 30...
I think we need to talk about some of our... So, in a couple episodes, not the 7th, but we need to go through some infantry and just say what we would love to see it through Drop Squad as infantry types.
Yeah.
We need it as a game topic episode.
Yep. No, I agree.
So, future game talk.
Speaking of future...
Resistance bikes.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
Upcoming events.
Yep. So, very, very quickly, just a reminder, we will not be having an episode next fortnight. We will not return until January 7th. That will be a special episode where we will be covering our highlights for 2022, as well as regular news, because obviously we'll have a month worth of stuff at that stage. Because we're not here for a month, I have not specifically stated any, because there's not really a lot of events that are happening over that period. Unless you know of one.
There is one event that the listeners need to pay attention to and take part in. Becoming a supporter for Patreon to be entered into our anniversary giveaway for April 1st.
Yep.
Yes.
April 2nd, but yes.
Close enough. And it's not an April Fool's joke. We are doing this.
No, I've literally shown the stuff off on camera. So there's a full Shaltari fleet for Drop Zone Commander that's being offered as part of a prize pack that's being given away. You get the Shaltari Dreadnought, you get the Shaltari starter set, a Shaltari frigates box, and a Shaltari cruisers box. More than enough to get you into the game and play at the full size. It will be all given away to one Patreon member. You get one entry for every month that you support us between now and April. Inclusive of April.
And it will be April 1st is when Sox and I are recording it, so...
Oh, okay.
'Cause you're in
Yeah,
the
okay.
future.
Yep. Okay, fair enough. I stand corrected. It's $2 a month. It gives you early access to almost everything that we do. The video edition of our podcast is now being released on Thursdays, not the following Saturday like it used to be. This is because we want to get more eyes on it, and it was getting to a point where like news was becoming too old at the point where it was being released. So we've brought that forward. Otherwise, the audio is released on time. You can follow us, facebook.com/gettingtabled. That's where 90% of our news or shared stuff goes first. We do have a Twitter. It's @gettingtabled. It's the same as our Instagram, @gettingtabled. If you'd like to reach out to the team and ask us about something, whether it be our competition or our thoughts on something, or whatever else.
A topic
that you want us to talk about, hell yeah. gettingtabled@gmail.com. We have a website, gettingtabled.weebly.com. I am on break from Twitch, but if you want to follow me until I come back, it's twitch.tv/Jason the Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.